We're about to start.
Bye, Gail.
Are you ready? All right. Good morning. I'm Terry Fry.
I'm Becky Evans.
And we are going to talk about our GPS and where you are for this year, gap numbers, and what your goal is for 2018.
So who knows what a GPS is?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what a GPS is?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Gail, do you know what a GPS is?
No.
Okay, so GPS is the original 135.
Correct.
And it stands for goals, priorities, and strategies.
To hit your goal, exactly.
Yes. So what are the 5 strategies that you put in place for each priority that will ensure that you hit your number 1 goal?
And I think the interesting thing is that not every agent is the same goal or priorities, in my opinion.
Yes.
All right. So, for example, some people, let's just say, how many transactions? What would be your goal this year as a new agent?
I'm brand new, so 5 would be amazing.
That would be great.
I literally have. I've done one. Technically, it was a rental, but
It's okay. It's a unit.
But 5 would be pretty amazing right now.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah, I'm just kind of right now. I'm building up my pipeline. Like I've got people that are like, okay, next year I'm going to buy next year, so I'm like setting up their email drip, those sort of things. I'm starting working with a couple people like on improving their credit.
Yeah. So a goal for a brand new agent could be the idea of how many goals how many transactions you're looking to close, as well as how are you building your pipeline, as you grow in the business.
And I think that's a really good point on that level, because even though you're new, you still have to have, and I think the GPS is really like a business plan, short business plan that helps you get to where you're going. Gail, what about you? How many units what is your goal for this year?
As many as I could get. That's
Okay.
just about it. Yeah.
Well, I think, and I'm going to just chime in on this, because where you guys are is where we were at one point in time. And I think for years, I started with a company called Buckhead Brokers way back in the day. It was a small boutique company. And I just feel like that if you don't have a plan, meaning a number, something you're reaching for, you just don't get there, or you don't know how to get there. You have hit and misses. And it took me a long time, personally, to understand what it meant. I think a lot of us fly by the seat of our pants. Oh, it's real estate. We have all the time in the world. I'm going to go for that low-hanging fruit first, and I'm sure it's just going to come my way, and I'm going to keep getting ready to get ready to maybe do something is a natural thing. We all experience that. So last week in our ALC, which is an Agent Leadership Council that Becky and I both serve on, the mission of the group was to say, how can we help agents? How can we help agents improve their business? How can we help them lead generate? How can we help them do all these things? And as I was listening to the answers, everything was from that individual's heart, what they needed to do. So from my perspective is I can't motivate you or anybody. I can't do anything, but you have to have your goal. It can be a pie in the sky goal. It can be a realistic goal. It can be a conservative goal. But if you don't have a number of units that you're going for the year, you will not get there. Because that's like, who do they say? You're like on a highway with no lanes, and you're going somewhere and you got no idea how to get there. So I'm going to challenge the people in the room as well as the ones who are streaming in. Write down a goal right now for 2018. It could be a pie in the sky. It can be a low level number, whatever you want. There's no judgment. There's no failure. It's only going to be feedback for us. And trust me, we have all been there where it's been 10, it's been 12, it's been if I could only get to 25, if I could only make 50,000 this year, whatever it is, write it down. It could be units or financial or a numeric number, okay?
Key is to own it.
You have to, and you have to believe in it. Like, I can't motivate you or anybody. You have to motivate yourself. And I think that is what has changed my life, is when I look at the GPS, I actually believe in the number that I have there. There were years I didn't believe in it, but I think the uncanny thing is that we actually hit the goals when we had a goal. All right, so I think real estate agents underestimate what their job is. And the number one thing is to have a goal and have a plan on how to get there. And that is why we're here. But we have to work off something. And I don't want to work off our numbers because we have the experience. So let's work off new people's numbers. And we can work off both of y'all's. Okay? So if you had to say either a financial goal or a unit goal, and I hate to put you on the spot, but if you said if I could make X dollars this year, what would that be?
Dollars?
How much would you like to make?
Units,
or units, either one.
You decided.
8 units.
And what would be your average commission on those?
Oh, I don't know, 10.
Okay, so $80,000 potentially. Okay, and just for you being brand spanking new.
10 closes or to cap.
Okay, that's a good goal. Okay, both of those are good goals. So now that you have that unit number, I would recommend writing that down. Okay, then there's a lot of strategies on how to get there, right? Mm-hmm. Some people lead generate in a way that I would never do. Calling expireds or calling withdrawals. Okay, that is a lead generation tool that is very successful and it works. It's not on my GPS. There's 100 ways to skin the cat, and I think that it's important to do what motivates you or where you're comfortable doing it. And whatever your strategy is, you have to commit to mastery of that strategy, right? So, name one of yours. What would be one of your?
So, just for clarification, the next step is to determine what your 3 pillars of your business are, which are your 3 priorities.
I'm sorry, I said strategies, but it is priorities.
Yeah. So, where is your focus? Where does it need to be? That if you're focused there, taking massive action around those specific priorities would cause you to truly hit your goals.
So for example, some people might want to do an open house. Some people might want to call expireds. Some people might want to just focus on their database. Some might want to, it could be anything.
Yeah, and it can also be as simple as the MREA books model, which is leads, listings, and leverage.
Yeah,
those could be your top 3 priorities. And then you break down exactly what each priority requires that allows for you to, when Terry wakes up and doesn't really feel like working today and doesn't really know what she wants to do, she pulls out her GPS and goes through the strategies of what is my focus for today.
And it is, and I think what it took me a lot of years to figure some of this out. Like it was very basic at the beginning, and it has gotten deeper over the years because I understand it more.
Clearer.
Yeah, there's a lot of clarity to it now. If I jump back to being new and I think of what could have I done differently, my database was always one of my things. And my database led to listings, it led to buyers, it led to leverage. But it all came out of my database, right? I mean, the people who work with me are people who've been in my life for most of it. So, which is an interesting concept. So I think that it's really important. So again, and I'll go with you. If you just have to kind of give an example. If you say, what is my why? Why do I get up every day and go to work? Okay, I'll do it. Because I think that's it though. I think you have to know what motivates you. Some people are motivated by money. Some are motivated by the adrenaline of the deal, the thrill of the deal. Some are like, well, there's nothing else to do. I think I'll just go try to sell real estate and might get lucky with a few deals. But if you really approach it that, I go to work every day because I love people. I want to travel. I want to pay off my debt. I want to put my kids through college. I want to retire one day. Whatever it is, you have to go deep enough to get what makes you get up in the morning. Some people, it's just money. I want to make as much money as I can, which, that was just fine. If that is really what drives you, that is more than fine. Everybody's different. And I think that is what, when you talk about lead generation, you're not going to lead generate. Nobody wants to come in and cold call people unless they know why they're picking up the phone, right? So if your goal is to retire in 10 years and you need X dollars to retire, what do I have to do to make those dollars to retire? And then you got to go big. You got to think wide, and then you narrow down your focus. So for me this year, my goal is 125 transactions, or units. I want 125 units. And they're going to come from leads, the listings, sellers and buyers, and then another part of my GPS is for systems to support what our goals are. But for some of my buyer's agents, their goal is to get listings, to do open houses, to network by joining network groups. I mean, there's different things you can do. I've seen all kinds of GPSs where people, they focus everything on expireds and withdrawals, which is absolutely fine if that's what it is, but you have to believe in what priority you're going to, I guess, commit to in order to go get it. So my point to the ALC, finding that magic pill and just lead generating, is not going to happen if you don't know why you're doing it. And then what are you lead generating for? So if you're focused on database, what are you going to do with your database? How can you tap into your database? How can you feed your database? How can you grow your database? You have to go that deep to understand, what am I going to do this month, or this week, or next week, or next month? How many do I want to add to it? Who's my Christmas card list? Who do I know at Bones that I've worked with for the last however many years you've been there? Who do they know? They know I'm credible. They know I work hard. How can I show them what I do? So you take each category, and I truly believe if you had one priority with your strategies on how to achieve that one category, you would still succeed. Would you? I mean, it's just the key is taking action. And I think a lot of us... Consistent action, which he says in there. I think that anybody in the world, if you know what you're doing, meaning if you know what you're working towards, you succeed. And there's been a lot of stories in the MREA that say that these agents have had nothing. They were laid on their sofa, totally broke, and saying, am I going to be a truck driver or am I going to be a real estate agent? Because both of those ads come on TV, and what am I going to do? And if you just commit to it with all of your heart and say, this is what I'm doing, and every day you get up, you get dressed, and you commit to your schedule, and you just pick up the phone, or you write notes, or you farm a neighborhood. I mean, I think that's really the key. But I think that sometimes that leads, listing, and leverage got a little too big for me because I had a hard time narrowing it down in my earlier years of real estate. But I can tell you, if I had an open house plan, there's a million YouTubes on KW Connect of what agents do. Being at Keller Williams is really taking data from a fire hose, and you have to pick and choose, and it is big. So if you narrow your focus and commit to that one thing, I think your life's change and your goals are met. And I think that's what drives me, is what am I working for? And I think that it's personal. I think it's deep. But I think you have to let the world know what your goal is and the actions you're going to take on a daily basis to achieve that. And I think we've gone through ups and downs, right? I mean, we've changed our strategies in the middle of the year. We say, well, you know what, that's not working. You can't always say why it's not working. Everything will work if you commit to it, but maybe it wasn't what we really believed in. So I don't know.
And I think being able to create your GPS is critical from that perspective of, now you know what your why is, and yet to show up every day in this business, it's so easy to get so distracted or lose focus or become unclear of exactly what needs to be done. And having that plan in place, that GPS completed before the year starts, or even before the next quarter starts, to where you can go back, and regardless of how you're feeling in the business, how you're feeling about your current actions, it actually creates an opportunity for you to take a step back and reset yourself and go back and say, what can I take on today that's in this list that is going to contribute to the movement and growth of my business?
Exactly. And I think you take it 12 weeks at a time. So
yeah.
Right now, I think you focus on second quarter ends, June 30th. What can I do in the next 7 weeks that will impact my life? It could be that you just do your GPS. You know, if that's really what it is, then that is just all it is. If you want to do one transaction, where am I going to get that transaction? What are the biggest odds of me getting it? Should I be holding an open house? Should I call the expireds? What can I do? I'm telling you, you are sitting on your gold mine. It is your database. No matter how little or how big it is, that is your gold mine. And for people who can move to a brand new city and know no one, they can do open houses, they can door knock. I mean, you can have reasons or results. And I said we all are filled with excuses every single day. Well, I got busy, or, you know, if I didn't have that contract and negotiating that inspection, you know what? I have them all. Get out of your own way and get over yourself. there's no reason you cannot commit to an hour a day of picking up the phone and making at least 5 phone calls to somebody, or writing 5 personal notes. It, to me, is that the excuses and all the reasons why you shouldn't do it are the things between here and here. And that's why I said you got to figure out why you're doing it. And then we can build it. And we're happy to build your GPSs with you. You're here. And we can help you do it. I mean, that's why we're here. I think this is, I do say if y'all get the KW Connect emails, the one yesterday was phenomenal. It said mapping the road to 100, how to quadruple your production in 1 year. This guy had nothing.
I saw that.
Did you read it?
I read part of it, yeah.
I suggest reading it all.
Okay.
To me, he had nothing. He was so in debt. This is most realtors' lives. I mean, it really is. Don't you? I mean, seriously?
Yes.
This is pretty much how we all are. And then it's like, well, I don't know what to do. The GPS tells you what to do. Your commitment tells you what to do. The MREA book tells you what to do. I mean, even if your commitment was to read the MREA book as one of your priorities, how many chapters do I read in the next quarter, or finish this quarter into the next one? What am I going to gain from it? I think the key is having a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you cannot have success. It's going to be, that's why realtors are like this. You know, we blame it on everything else, the universe, but it's not. It's us. If you do your job every day, 5 days a week is your job, not 7 days a week. If you commit to those 5 days a week, even if you did 3 days a week, you'd be so much more successful. And
Yeah.
Don't you agree? I mean,
would you agree that like right now it's the getting a feel for what's changing in our market right now?
Sure.
Because many of us, you know, even sitting in the ALC, many of us are behind our goals. Many of us have larger gaps than we would have expected between what our goal originally was and where we are now. And I think we get so caught up in comparing our business this year to our business previous years, when in reality there is no comparison of this year versus last year. It really is comparison of this year to the market of this year.
and I'm going to go a step further, because I totally believe that things are different, but I also believe it's mindset.
Yes.
And I think that you create your own destiny, your own world. You really do. So if you're and we've struggled this year. We came out of the gate a little bit slower than normal. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of things that were bogging the brain down. But if you truly are laser focused, it doesn't matter if people started when the market was at rock bottom in business and succeeded. All of us old timers going, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. Mindset, other people are succeeding. So people succeed in every single market.
Yes.
But the key is being aware of it, but also being focused on your goals. If you want it and it's there, you can go get it. And I'm just telling you, our biggest challenge for real estate agents is we do compare market to market or transaction to transaction, or that agent, well, she doesn't do anything. Why is she getting that? I should be the one getting it. But maybe what you don't see is what she's doing behind the scenes. You know, maybe there's just a lot of different things. But I think the real key is don't compare your insides to somebody else's outsides, and to stay laser focused on yourself. Becky and I are fierce competitors, and we're also great friends, and we mastermind. I am not fearful of Becky taking my business. She is not fearful of me taking her business. You can work.
Speak for yourself.
Seriously, though, I think you can work so well, and you can gain so much from people in this office. But I think the thing that just blows my mind continuously is, you got to lead generate, but if you don't know what you're lead generating for, you will not lead generate. That's just the bottom line. If you don't have a goal, you're not ever going to reach it. I mean, you're just not. You don't have a strategy. You don't have a plan. It's not going to happen. So you can make all the reasons, all the excuses you want to. The bottom line is, until you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I deserve to be successful. This is my goal. I'm going to hit it, period. I don't care what anybody else says to me. Then you're not going to hit it. That's just it. So if you don't commit to yourself and commit to success, you're not going to have it. And yes, little boy in the back.
I have a question for the agent on the right.
Yes.
And then if the other agent would answer this too. What is your weekly, Terry? What is your weekly lead generation looking like?
Bob, I think that's a great question, and that has been a struggle for us for a long time. We are very blessed in this business. Okay, so our biggest challenge, one of our strategies, is lead follow-up, because we get a lot of leads. So we don't necessarily, we've been blessed in the fact that we have not had to go hunting down cold leads. But I'll tell you, we've lost a tremendous amount of business for lack of lead follow-up. We wake up every day and just like the whirlwind starts, and it is, success is simple, not easy, because it's just being focused on your calendar. So I think for us, it's lead follow-up. That's been our focus this year. It's like, okay, we were losing things. Let's go follow up with the people, pipeline from last year or whatever it may be. So, ours might look a little bit different, but there's no right or wrong as long as you focus on it. So our goal every morning we get in, we have a team call to get us focused and started. Fran, Pete, and people around us, we say, what is our focus for the day? Because we have found if we don't start our day with a focus, everything else takes us off track. Everything takes us off track because there's always something. And that something will be there at 12 o'clock, just like it will be there at 9 a.m. And instead of doing that 3-hour lead generation, we focus on a 1 hour. So is it lead follow-up? Is it following up with our sellers and asking who they know? I mean, just whatever it is, following up with buyers. We have found that the more we stay on top of the people we're working with, the more successful we are. We have less listings this year than we have ever had. And we are just as successful as we have been in previous years. Okay, because our listings are selling, but we're not carrying 30, we're not carrying 25. I have 12 right now. And at first when I was having 5 and 6 through there, I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. So my brain was saying everything's horrible. But we start saying this is actually kind of good because we're selling what we're getting. So we're doing more cycling through it, which I can honestly say we have not experienced that previously, really. So Becky, to answer his question.
So I think one thing that Terry probably didn't mention is that her lead gen does include showing up for relationships.
Very much
I
so.
think that
That's true.
her week, if you check in with Terry like, hey, where are you at? What are you doing? A lot of times she's servicing her relationships, and that's her way of lead generating. And it also includes going to the athletic club, and even if it's happy hour, I think it's the showing up within relationships is how she lead gens. Those ultimately, to me,
Getting
count
in
as
front of people.
contacts. She's in front of people. She's constantly carries her servant's heart on her sleeve for her clients and her sphere, and I think that is where it is. It's not just blessed and it shows up. I think it's how you show up for your clients.
I would agree with Becky, which goes back to your database, and one of our pillars is our database. I mean, that just has to be for us. If you don't have a database, then you build a database somehow. So, and what do y'all do?
So my perspective is kind of the same. During the week, I'm not pounding the phones, and yet, I do follow up with my clients for their anniversary dates, for, when they've closed, as well as I think part of it is being so engaged with our active clients that's a huge part of our lead gen, because that I think has caused us to have the referral business that we have. I think that, another great way is to lead gen your active clients through serving them at a high level. One of our strategies is to ensure that we're getting a 20% return on all closed transactions in 2018. And that was a big aha for us was, somebody at Mega had mentioned unless you actually send me a referral, you basically are telling me I didn't do a great job, right? And I really took that to heart and realizing that, it's that first round of that time with that client that is really getting us more results. And we are seeing referrals from active clients from that perspective too. So that's a big part of our lead gen, that is and when I say our active clients, it's also our leads. As well too. So
our pipeline, anything that's people you've met. And I think people underestimate relationships. Some people are afraid to say, hey, I'm in real estate, I'd love the opportunity. There's a credibility issue when you're new. I mean, I had it, but you can use office stats. There's things that you can do to overcome.
And going back to something that Sean Rawls had said to me that I think really impacted me as an agent was Your goal doesn't have to be to position yourself as a real estate agent or a salesperson. Position yourself as a local economist.
Yes.
Because people connect with your knowledge first, and I think that really is a huge difference of how people are perceiving you. So my clients, and I'm sure with you just the same, because your strength is also the stats, is really positioning it from an economic perspective as opposed to just buying or selling a house.
And also from a resource. I mean, we get calls almost every day for something. It could be for a plumber. It could be for whatever. But I mean, but we want them to call us. You want to be top of mind. But back to the people who don't have a big business. You asking what you can do. I think the question is, you ask yourselves, is your database a place you can start? Would you say your database is a place you could start?
Not really. I'm not. I would say no. I mean, I have very, very few contacts outside of work.
You don't need them.
Well, yeah, but I mean, because I'm not new to the area. Outside of having been here for 3 years, I haven't contacted a lot of people because I'm always at work. Like, I moved here from LA.
In the restaurant business, right?
People I know in South Carolina, because I do know like some people in South Carolina actually have some friends here. So I've been able to start tapping into that. So.
Gotcha. How many here have your database or relationships as part of your, I guess, your priority? Yeah. Is that something? So how often, I mean, if you go back and read the MREA book, which I really highly recommend, that really is a blueprint for success. People so underestimate. It's a slow start, I'll be honest with you. It does take a little bit of effort to get it going.
The whole book.
But if you really look at it and you read it from a perspective of, this is my real estate Bible. This is what I have to do to be successful in real estate.
Operations manual.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, as CEO, operate for your team? Like, that's that book.
And your team is you. You don't have to have a team of 10 people. I mean, you are your team, and you have support staff. You can present yourself in a way of a success in the minds of others very easily. And the other book I would read side by side is Shift. There are 2 books, and you can read 2 chapters a week. I mean, seriously, in both of them. And I
Shift is powerful right now.
It is huge, and it just helps you with things to say. I think being a steward of your goal, relationships, scripts, and role play, don't underestimate that. I mean, literally, we've been doing this for how long? You get caught off guard sometimes, and if you know your scripts, it just flows. And just the way to ask questions. And I know people get tired of hearing that bold thing. I'll tell you, I think bold can change a new agent's life. I do. I think it can change an old agent's life too, personally. And so when you take a class like that, or you commit to something like that, everybody's in a different place. Like, you don't always get the same thing out of it, but you do get something out of it. And I think that's if one thing impacts you or makes a difference, it's amazing what it can do for you. So we were talking. Do y'all know what a GPS is? We were talking about GPS goals, priority.
So this is Wanda, who's about to join us soon. Can she listen in?
Hey, of course. The purple one, Brad.
What's that?
You still assigning?
So, okay, I think Becky told me that the 135 is now called GPS. Because to me it's 135. And I understand that, but
I think with the 135 is people didn't always give, well, what's a 3, what's a 5? So it basically says you have your 1 goal, your 3 priorities, and your strategies to support those priorities.
And it is a GPS. It's
your roadmap.
Right. It is how to get there, how to get to your goal. What
I love
steps you have to take to hit your goal.
But I also I think it's so important to know that we're all not the same, and everybody's goal is different. You're motivated for another reason. When I got into real estate, my only goal, I got diagnosed with cancer when I was 32. My only goal was to pay off medical bills. That was it. I didn't care about anything else. It's like, if I could only make $50,000 this year, what would that do for my life? I wanted to pay for private school, pay off that. But that was my motivation, and I'll tell you something. It made me get up every day, it made me go to work every day, and it made me do my very best every day, because it was real to me. It could be that you just want to go to Italy, or you want to do something, but I think if you don't know why you're getting up, you're not going to really get up. You know, you're not going to succeed unless you know why you're doing it. And I don't think any of us or any of our goals have to be the same. And many times, we're all not driven by the same thing. But if you know why you're getting up every day, you will look at your 135 GPS a lot harder and take your job a lot more serious. I think the lack of time constraints in real estate, people just, well, I have time. I'll do that later. Oh, that's okay. I don't have to really do that. You're doing yourself a disservice. And we've all been there. We've done it. And we've scrambled. Our business, my business, I'll speak for myself, not us, although we're very similar. Very. My business would be so much better right now if I stick to my schedule and if I do my GPS. And we have big goals. We have big financial goals. We have a team. We're feeding faces. I mean, there's a lot of things we're doing. However, I showed up every day like I was supposed to, it would be phenomenal. We show up somewhat, so that's a great thing, that 80-20 rule, right? It's a great thing that if you do something, it's better than nothing. But at least I know where my goal is. I know what I'm striving for. So I think that's the number one thing for us to know that.
And I think, you know, like, there's many of us, like myself included, that I don't know what my big why is. But I've got a lot of little whys along the way that drive me just the same. And yet, it also becomes a choice. And I think that whether your business is growing or not growing, it's the choices and decisions that you've made along the way. And, you know, we use the GPS as our guardrail in how we're making our decisions because, you know, everybody comes into the business because they love the flexibility, I think.
And they think you get that one big check and that's all what it is. And that is exciting.
It is. And, you know,
there's more.
Our coach also reminds us of, would you hire yourself again?
Or would you fire yourself?
Yes. And that's something big to ask yourself every day at the end of the day. Would you have kept yourself as part of this company and how you showed up today? And, you know, independent of your big why, it's who are you and how are you choosing to be in this business? Whether it's closing 10 deals and you committed to whatever it takes, I'm going to help 10 buyers and sellers in 2018, and it becomes a non-negotiable because you have so much integrity in yourself and you have a plan that you are going to follow day in and day out so that at the end of the year you've checked every single box that you didn't. And if you did, I would be surprised if you didn't hit your goals.
It's just like working for a company. If you work for IBM or whoever it is, you're working there for their why, not your why, right? You're just trying to pay your monthly bills, whatever it is. But you have a job to do, and if you don't do it, you don't have a job.
There's a reason you chose not to be there.
That's exactly right. It's a choice. If you treated yourself like that every day, and you got up, you got dressed, and you showed up for work at your report time, not, well, it's raining today, I'm going to be a little late. Would you be late to IBM? No. So don't be late to yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. I think that's the biggest challenge from a real estate agent's perspective is, what am I going to do today? And I think that's why so many people don't succeed. That's why so many agents only close 4 deals a year. And I think once you change your vision and commitment level, everybody will succeed.
Now, Becky has an office here. Terry, I know you have a home office, right?
I have an office here. We share an office here.
Oh, I have both, but I generally work out of my Johns Creek office, truly.
Right.
And we have, in my office, we run, there's probably 6 of us there every day. And people have hours, they show up. Our buyer's agents have a little bit more flexibility, but they typically show up. Mm-hmm. But it's very reflective in your bottom line, whether or not you chose to show up to work or not, right?
Yes.
So that's it. I can't make my buyer's agents do things they don't want to do, and I don't. But their paycheck shows them what they did and didn't do. Mm-hmm. So and that's just it. That's the bottom line, and the reality is, it is ultimately at the end of the day, anybody can do it. And I genuinely believe that. Anybody can do it. If you show up and suit up. Yes, Miss Diane.
Hi. We have people watching on YouTube.
Okay.
And actually somebody posted a question on YouTube. It's a question from Kay Ellis. How do you get listings? I am lost as far as lead gen.
Well, I wish she were here so we could ask her a few questions.
Yes.
But my very first question is what is your goal? Is that one of your priorities is to have listings? And what strategies are you doing to do that? So for listings, are you farming an area? Are you door knocking? Are you calling expireds and withdrawals or old ones? Are you doing a statistical mailer to them? What are you doing to create an opportunity? And that's it. I mean, we all, and this is not directed to you, but we all wish things happened, but they don't happen without taking an action.
Yeah.
So if your goal is, or one of your pillars is to have a listings, then you need to come up with your action plan on how to get that. And keep in mind, you cannot be all to all people. So you can't say, I'm gonna do open houses, I'm gonna call expires, I'm gonna do withdrawals. That's very hard. I think it's laser focus on the activity that you are willing to do.
Yeah, and you know, to piggyback off of Terry, I think what's important is there's a laundry list of what you can do. Like, no matter who you have sitting up here, how often we have different panels of the different sources of lead gen.
Right.
It isn't about what is Terry doing. It isn't about what Becky is doing. It's about this entire list, because I think, Stacey, you had sent out this list that had like 40 ways to lead generate, right? And it's you making a decision of which pillars of lead gen are you committed to, and then designing a plan around it. Because even if I were to say, hey, I lead gen by standing at the mall, and that's caused me to do 100 transactions, you showing up at the mall isn't necessarily going to give you that result, because the focus shouldn't be about what are you doing. It should be about what did you choose to commit to in 2018 of where your business was coming from, and what did you decide you're willing to do to get and close that business.
Exactly.
That's the question you're asking.
And again, I go back, you can't be all
Yeah.
to yourself. You have to choose what you're going to do, and you got to do a plan, and you got to stick to the plan. The magic pill doesn't happen overnight. It's consistency, it's working the plan. And it may take you a year
And
to
taking
get
the
it.
feedback.
Yes.
I think that's important, is if first quarter you take the time to look back and say, I closed 4 units. 3 out of the 4 units were a result of open houses. So next quarter, does that mean you should up your open house game? Yes. You know that
Strengthen
you've
it, build it.
seen. Take the feedback of your business and your results and your leads to help you manage what the next quarter looks like. That's you pivoting in your business and say, okay, great, I got 3 leads, I only did 4 open houses. What would it look like if I doubled my open houses on Saturdays and Sundays and did 2 open houses on Saturday, 1 open house on Sunday? That causes me to do 4 more open houses in a month. Could that lead to 4 more pieces of business?
And I agree with Becky totally on that. I do think it's important, though, especially as newer agents, don't give up on yourself at first, because you have to also master your skill set. So as you're learning through how to do an open house or how to make your phone call, just because you don't get results the first 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, look deep at yourself too. What are you doing to master the open house plan? If you don't have a plan for open houses and you just go show up on Sundays, guess what? It's a 50-50 shot. You might or you might not. So if you don't, we go back to the GPS as being so critical. You have to have a plan around your plan. And if you don't do if you don't have a plan, you're on open roadway with no lanes, and you don't know where you're going. If you have a plan, you stick to it. And I do think as a newer group, even with seasoned agents, I learn new scripts and skill set all the time. I mean, you have to be willing to show flexibility and to put yourself out there. And what do they say about you got to be uncomfortable? If you're comfortable, you're not growing.
Uncomfortable.
Period. If it feels good to you, you're not growing at all.
Can you speak to scripts? Do you have a set partner? Do you do it on your own? Do you just look up things?
So for me, I have a role play partner that I talk with at 7:30 every Tuesday. We do 30 minutes, and then when I'm getting ready to go into a situation that I already feel like I know what some of the objections may be, I'll call Terry and say, Terry, can we role play this out so that I'm not practicing on my client, so that I'm clear on what my message is going to be with our client. So we kind of role play more so off the cuff, though
But
I
you want a
highly
future
recommend.
pace too, like if you're looking at price reduction or negotiation on a contract, we do always write down, and I'll call and say, help. If I hear this, what do I say? Because sometimes you get so caught up in it, you can't see the forest for the trees. So it's important to speak out loud and to practice. And I guess we practice more than we give ourselves credit for. But I think it's important. I mean, our coach every week, I get a new script almost every week without even, we don't go into it getting a new script. It comes out by conversation and putting yourself in the way of business and growth. So I think,
and I think that's part of, if you look at the top 20% and how they're approaching the business, it's the constantly getting feedback from other agents of what their experiencing is and showing up for those conversations. I think it's easy for us to just be in our own head all the time, that taking the time out just to grow in a conversation of how could I have handled this better?
Yes.
Like, you sit there and you have this conversation with yourself like, oh, it was such a killer buyer's consultation. They didn't sign the agreement, but they're going to sign it. And instead, like, I think, Terry, you would agree, is when I leave a listing appointment, I say to myself, what could I have said or did better in that conversation? Because constantly tweaking and growing is so powerful, and I think that's really important, and from a GPS perspective, for our buyer's agents, like, I know that for both my buyer's agents on the team, one of their pillars is to master being a buyer's agent. And their 5 strategies around it is, one is, truly master the buyer's consultation. 2 is, their commitment to scripting and role playing. Like, I've challenged them to script and role play 4 days a week with 4 different partners that serve 4 different purposes. And that's like one of the main strategies for them. The next one is reading shift and truly mastering some of the scripts and conversations within it, because one of the biggest and most critical chapters, I think, is bulletproofing your transactions. Yeah. Especially now. And it's like those little things are moving them, which seems like baby steps, but by the time you finish the year, you actually take giant leaps to prepare you for the next year.
Preparedness is the key. And I think the times that we take for granted what we're doing are the times that we tend to fail, or we don't get the listing, or we don't get the buyer, or whatever. I think you have to be prepared, and you have to understand it. You role play your presentation. Again, it's just the commitment. It's really a commitment to yourself. Mm-hmm. It's commitment on being the best that you can be for your own GPS.
Would it surprise you to know that in your job description, your top 5 duties as an agent is scripting and role playing?
It's one of them.
How many knew that definitively? And I think a lot of people go into bold. Going back to what Terry had mentioned, like, I love bold. And the first time I went in, I'm like, I am so not doing these scripts.
I'm not saying that.
And yet, I think it's the perception of the script itself. I think it's that foundation of your purpose in your conversations, that once you've truly internalized what those basic fundamental scripts are, you're able to truly drive conversations at a high level.
Exactly.
Because it causes you to be so clear on what your intentions are behind what you're saying to your clients, the KWAP agent, yourself in many ways.
Yes.
As well too.
Along with those affirmations.
Yeah, and that's a great, I think, should be part of everybody's strategies at some point. Like, in your GPS somewhere, that scripting role play needs to be in your GPS. I do think that's a critical
and
strategy.
They have it everywhere. And people, it's kind of funny because, I was the same way. Oh, I would never say that. Maybe I wouldn't say it exactly like that, but I'm using those words. The language of sales, there are such key words that have taken so long to get there. For me, I'm a slow learner. Trust me, I've pushed back a long time. I really have. But I think that when you really internalize and you take it to that level of, I'm a professional, I know my market, I know my skill set, I know what to say, I know how to say it, you go so much further.
It makes a difference of a 5-minute conversation with the seller and a 1-minute conversation with the seller.
Exactly. That's true. True. And we do a lot of future pacing for us. We have to, because the market's different, and you have to be a steward of, what is it called? It's not affluencing your client somehow. You know, you can't tell somebody how to feel, just like we can't tell you what your goal is. We can't tell you what you're supposed to do every single day. We can't tell you your why. What we can tell you, though, if you don't have a plan, if you don't know your why, you don't have a goal, you don't have a plan to get there, you're not going to get there. Or you're not going to get there easily. It's going to be very bumpy with a lot of ups and downs. And I think that's probably the most critical piece of it.
So I would say, to sum up before we let everybody ask questions, I think some of the top strategies to consider for your GPS could be, one, the scripting and role playing, mastering the stats, mastering your buyer's consultation, listing consultation, so that it's duplicatable. Yes. And that you can manage and pivot, based on the results that you're getting. As well, building your systems, especially if you're a new agent.
But I was going to go back to also narrow it, though.
Yeah.
To be a master of the stats, you don't have to. I mean, we might know more areas than you because we have been doing it longer. But if there's an area, exactly, wherever your wheelhouse is, where you're going to be hanging out, at the grocery store, at the nail salon, wherever you are, know your area. And those people, trust me, my nail salon lady gives me leads. She knows when I fly in on a Sunday at 12, I got to get out quick because I'm going to an open house. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So they are always inquiring. So just narrow your focus a little bit, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of that strategy,
Yep.
just to kind of build in. Some of the priorities would be growing your database by a certain percentage.
Yep, absolutely.
The number of listings listing appointments you need to go on to hit your listing goals, buyer consultation goals.
And right, some of this is bigger conversation.
Yes.
It's bigger than what some can grasp at a new level, I think. But they're all very important because those are the things that are in our strategies now, which, you know what I'm saying?
But it could be 10 listing appointments in 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
That would result in 8 listing closings for the year. Just know that, and regardless of what level you're at, the changes sometimes either are the unit numbers or the gross commission income, and yet many of the strategies or priorities can be the same.
And acknowledge the fact that you're down to 6 months, okay? Just because the year goes to December 31st, all of your business is going to be written, for the most part, for a buyer in November. For a listing, it can still be October, November, but still. So you're down to 6 months. You got to condense that goal into 6 months and figure out how you're going to get it. And I highly recommend that you look at your next 6 weeks. What can I do in the next 6 weeks to hit what? And then look at your third quarter. By the time you're at fourth quarter, you're literally doing your 2019 plan. So, and you've got to understand that people, it's like, oh my God, where'd the time go? Well, that's where it goes. Our listings are expiring now in October. I'm like, oh my God. When you go 6 months out, it's all of a sudden you're there. So, as Becky said, questions from anybody that we can help in any way, shape, or form? Nothing? Okay. Do you have
No. No way. When you, thinking back to when you were newer in the business, could you imagine a GPS, what kind of a basic GPS, goal would you put, transactions or dollars, and the kind of 3, just make up one?
For me, I was at Bucket Brokers, and they had, I forgot what the thing was called. It was some super something, and I decided to pay the $125 for the class, which was a big deal. And my thing was, if I could only make $75,000, what would that mean for my life? And the teacher's like, you got to write down the $75,000.
Mm-hmm.
And what would it mean for you? And I still have that stupid sheet of paper that I wrote it on, but it was silly stuff. But the amazing thing was, I did 125. It was like, I never dreamt in a million years ever that I would make over $100,000. I really didn't. I couldn't even fathom it. So I think the key, that's what the beauty of it is that if you really put it there. Same thing, like for us, like my goal for our team was we want to do $1 million in GCI. I thought there's no way we'll ever. I mean, really, you think you can never ever do it. So I think no matter what goal it is, it could be 25,000, 50, 75. Just write it down. That's to me, the biggest thing is write down your goal.
Okay, but then can you come up with 3 priorities?
So my first GPS was when it was a 135. I wasn't even an agent at that point. I was working for the law firm, and I was a virtual assistant. And I sat down with John Thompson, who was the team leader at that point, and he said, let's set some goals and let's do a GPS. And the goal was simple. I wanted to quit the law firm, and I just wanted to make a decision if I was in or out in this business. And he said, how many transactions would that take? And I was like, 20 transactions, right? So my goal was 20 transactions that year, and this was 2010 with John Thompson. 2009 with John Thompson. And so I wrote that down. I wrote that down, and he was like, where do you think your business is coming from? So my first priority was to...
That's a great question. Where do you think your business is coming from?
And so I'm like, I'm new to Atlanta. I'm an SC. I'm not very social. I don't do well with people. And so you can
all the great traits
at any behavioral profile.
I agree.
And so I was like, well, I'm part of this networking group that I'm serving on the board for. And he was like, okay, what's the plan? How much business do you think you can get from this networking group? What does that look like? When are the events? And my strategies were how many events I was going to go to, how many people I would actually speak to at every single event, and growing the database, right? And then my second one came back to short sales. I was like, I think I can do short sales and get agents to refer them to me because nobody else wants to do them.
You were the short sale queen.
Yes.
Queen.
I sent you one.
Yes, many.
I sent her several.
And then my third one was just the place that I was in. My goal was to get out of debt, and what did that look like for me to be able to take the leap and truly, be 100% in. And that was simple. And did I do everything on it? No. Do I wish I did? Yes. Do I still do everything on it? No. And yet, some of the items roll over year, and I can see myself growing year over year because my expectations and my standards of some of the strategies I put in place have also changed. So it's like, even if your GPS was just that simple, and even if you don't have 100% of strategies, put something down that you can check off, and your skills around the GPS will continue to grow based on the level that you're growing yourself. And for the first time I ever set a goal, I did. I hit my goals. I closed 23 deals that year, made $20,000 more than I expected, and I quit my job on the exact same day that I said that I would and walked away. And I looked back a couple of times, but at this point, I'm not looking back. And I still do the GPS every year, and yet 2017 was probably the first year that the GPS truly clicked for me, that it became a part of my business. Do I wish I committed more to it sooner? Yeah, it's a game changer.
And that's to get back to, I didn't do a GPS until just a few years ago. I didn't really understand it. I really didn't. And I didn't really understand my why for a long time either. So I think that's just, but it could, like Becky said, it could be a little simple one. So I don't think you should beat yourself up, but I think you just have to have that goal, how simple it is, and then commit to it and commit to work. I think that's just it, commit to the work.
Yeah, because you may just pick and choose and do only 50% of what you laid yourself out to do, but that's 50% more with clarity than you would have done without it.
Exactly. Agreed.
Awesome. Okay, y'all, somebody's got a question.
It's
I
okay.
do. What are the pros and cons of calling expireds?
I have not done that. I've called them, the pro is obviously you can close something and list something. I've done it a couple of times, and
the pro is they have their hand up, right? They're saying, I want to sell my house. I wasn't successful at it, so why? Was it the agent? Was it the price? Was it the condition? Was it the location? What is it? So they have said, I want to sell my house. So I think they are a warm lead.
It means there's no con, because it doesn't hurt to call.
It does not hurt to call. The con is if you're not going to do it, then don't have it on your plan. So it's not going to be on my plan because I'm not going to call them yet. It may be something down the road, but it's just something that I haven't done. But there's no reason not to. They're warm leads. They're saying, they're screaming, I want to sell my house. or I need to sell my house. So
I had sold a property and the closing attorney didn't file the paperwork in a timely manner. So I started getting expired calls. And after number 30, I finally hung up. You know, I just didn't answer the phone anymore.
Yeah,
but you know what,
if you're
though?
agent number 29 and that's who you hired.
You know, the thing is, see, that's mindset.
No, the property had been sold for a year and a half.
Oh, but you know what, though, the thing is, though, they're not
then it's
scrubbing their
next.
leads. It's just, it's just, you know what, somehow you came up, if you got that many calls that much longer after the fact, that was just a glitch in however you're coming up or showing up. But the bottom line is, those agents are proactive, they're picking up and calling. And if you had not already sold, and you were a seller, that was kind of like, gosh, I wish I had sold, somebody would have hit the jackpot. I mean, when you call, it's like internet leads. You don't get them all, you might get 3 or 4% of them, right? So you got to keep working it. Expireds, I don't know what your conversion rate is, but you might have to make 100 calls to get one. If you're committed to that type of plan, it's fine, but just the key is committing to it and doing it. But you have to change mindset. If you're going to call expireds, you have a problem with expireds, mentally that, oh, I hate when they call. I wouldn't call expireds. You know, if you call expireds from the perspective of, I'm calling you because you had your hand up and you need help. You need to sell your house and I'm the right agent for you. And this is why I'm the right agent for you. I'm calling you today like all these other agents, but I'm calling because I care about you. I want to talk to you and understand what your goal is, whatever it is. But that's where you master and internalize your script so that you can overcome every objective they have leading up to that. And there are going to be objections. They're pissed, right? I mean, they just are. They're mad. Their house didn't sell. So, but that's the great thing. And that same thing with your database or anything you're going to call. Value. What is your value for somebody? And I think that's the key with every relationship, every expired, withdrawn, short sale, whoever it is. What value can you bring to the table? So you got to believe in yourself.
Can we thank Terry and Becky?
Thank you guys
so much.
Our pleasure.